WWE Hall of Famer and member of the legendary Four Horsemen, Tully Blanchard was recently criticised following the death of the American Dream Dusty Rhodes. Now, I've seen the video that Tully online on here on YouTube that Tully talks about his memories of Dusty. Apparently he made comments regarding the NWA Mid-Atlantic Fan Fest that he was involved with, and he made comments to the extent of, you know, why don't people come along and see these legends now, because you never know, something might happen to them. He's got a lot of criticism online regarding those comments, but you know what? After considering it and after listening to this week's Woo Nation podcast, hosted of course by Ric Flair with his guest Terry Funk, I have to say I'm absolutely in agreement with Tully Blanchard. I say go and meet the legends if you get the opportunity to do so before something happens. Now, the reason why I've come to this determination, why I've thought about it, and it's something that I've thought about for a long time. It's one of the reasons why, when I have the opportunity to go to some of these events that I have gone to before, I take the opportunity to go. I know, obviously, a lot in the last couple of years, last about 3-4 years now, Scottish Wrestling Entertainment, the local wrestling organisation, have had a lot of great superstars on their shows, from the likes of Brian Kendrick and Paul London to Chavo Guerrero, Roddy Piper, the $1 Million Man Teddy DiBiase, Terry Funk, who I spoke out there and I'll speak about again in a second, is coming to Dundee this coming August, and that is not a promotional thing about it at all. The truth is, if you listen to this week's Woo Nation podcast, okay, Terry Funk speaks with Ric Flair, and obviously, you know, they talk about the times that they've had together during the wrestling career, the matches, their friends, the travels down the roads, the bumps, the bruises, the punishment they've taken. They even talk about the famous Terry Funk pile driving Ric Flair through the wooden table moment, which Ric Flair, as he says, didn't even know that was going to happen, wasn't prepared for it. Even Terry Funk, I think, just made it a last second split decision to do that. They just did it on, you know, on their own. They just split second, just happened, ended up happening. That's it. And you know, on that podcast, they talk about various guys that they've known throughout the years of professional wrestling, the likes of Wahoo McDaniel and Dick Slater, who a lot of younger fans may not have heard of that name, but was a great wrestler. He's currently living, apparently bound, according to Flair and Funk, in a wheelchair in a care home in Clearwater, Florida. Not doing that great. Harley Race, also wheelchair bound now, unfortunately, according to Flair and Funk. He has no feeling below his knees. How sad is that? How unbelievably upsetting is that for one of the greatest wrestlers of all time to be in that kind of condition? Also, Robert Windham, Cowboy and Blackjack Mulligan. Another great wrestler. Again, some younger fans may not know these guys, but he was an exceptional talent, and I obviously never got the chance to see him in person or to really see his work on a regular basis, but I've seen a lot of his stuff on, you know, the Blackjacks on YouTube and a lot of that old footage on YouTube. I'm a huge wrestling fan, and he is really struggling. Apparently he's really overweight, and obviously, you know, we know that very recently he suffered a heart attack when he was in hospital, and that was to have scheduled surgery to relieve some head problems, some pain on his brain. Obviously that surgery was cancelled after he suffered the heart attack, and I believe he is home now recovering, but he's still not doing very well. You know, and Terry Funk just, you know, states on that podcast he suffered problems with the intestines, had to have plastic stuff put in, had heart stents. You know, you can go back, listen this week's Woo Nation, play.it, and you can find it on iTunes, just search Ric Flair, Ricflair, and I don't care about people mocking me for the spelling of things, but check Ric Flair on iTunes, which is where I always find all my podcasts. You can listen to this week's edition. You can hear all their stories about all their friends and all their, all of the guys that they've known. And I mean, it's like Terry Funk says, I've come on, we're speaking, and you've instantly coming up with 7 bad news stories about people we know. Obviously they mutually know. And the fact is, unfortunately, some of these, Ric Flair says he's getting up there in the years now. He's 60 plus, 70 nearly. Funk is getting up there. He's 72, I think. Now, I'm sure his birthday's around about this time. I know it's certainly within this end period of June. He's at least 72 years old. I believe I'm correct in that. But 71, 72 certainly. So a lot of guys like Funk and Flair and the guys that they know, they're getting up in age. Unfortunately, they're getting older. Things will happen naturally in life, and things will happen naturally in life. Not even just with the punishment, the effects of the punishment that these guys have actually had during their career. Obviously, Terry Funk, I can't forget his name, but the co-host of Flair's podcast, he tells a story on the podcast about having Funk around at his house, and Funk not actually having previously seen the barbed wire match that he had against Sabu. Certainly, I'm sure it'll be available, possibly even online or here on YouTube, but or on one of these video sites. But I've got it on VHS, but a few years ago when I saw it, and Funk sitting there looking at himself being wrapped up in the barbed wire, because the end, both Sabu and Terry Funk cannot actually finish the match the way they were supposed to, because they both get entangled in the barbed wire. Terry Funk sitting there looking at himself, looking at Sabu, caught all up in the barbed wire, unable to move, unable to escape. If Terry Funk had been trying to move really a lot from the barbed wire, if you've not seen it, the barbed wire is wrapped right round his neck and right round his head and right all around his body. If he'd tried to move and free himself, he could have seriously cut himself in the barbed wire. And Terry Funk sat there, watched it, and commented, "Geez, I'm somebody's grandfather." I know, and it's not just those examples, because over the years we have lost so many great professional wrestlers so young, and I don't need to name the names. I know the names that a lot of people are thinking about: Rick Rude, Owen Hart, Brian Pillman, the British Bulldog. So many great names. Of Eddie Guerrero, all these atypical names that come up in conversation when people are talking about the effects of wrestling, or the effects of drugs and other substances in professional wrestling. So many of them have passed away, and even guys that didn't do the drugs and that, like Big Boss Man or Earthquake. A lot of other guys who have died in whatever circumstances, and obviously the Von Erichs and that. And it's always been one of my things, and I was thinking about it yesterday after, on the trip back from the city centre, after going down to take care of some business. It really just, it's amazing, the list of the guys that I would love to meet but are no longer with us. And all those guys, and all those more, and there's so many Facebook pages that discuss them, and websites that have them listed, and YouTube videos all the time get updated about the various guys. Crush, there's another one, Doink the Clown, so many guys have passed away. Test, Andrew Martin, so many of those guys have passed away, and really, in my opinion, when you do get the chance to meet these legends, it's like, I put a video quite a few weeks ago on here on YouTube, Wrestling Stars, Legends and Hall of Famers. You go back and you can see some of the guys that I've been able to meet or seen in action, and it's a tremendous list. I mean, some of those guys I never thought I would meet, and I know compared to some people's list, it may be a minor list, it may be a lot smaller than other people's list who may have had the chance to meet likes of Hulk Hogan, Sting, The Undertaker, Ric Flair, whoever, great if you've had that chance to meet so many of these legends, so many of these guys, future Hall of Famers. That's fine. I have just unfortunately have not had the chance to meet a lot of all of those kind of guys. But the truth is, like Jim Ross says every week at the end of his podcast, our tomorrows are not guaranteed. Who knows what will happen? You see it all the time. Shootings are going on in America. I've just heard about some news about a couple of road accidents that have happened here in here in Dundee, not really that far from me. A couple of the highways, motorways, that have happened over the last couple of hours, and it appears possibly, some serious injuries have happened. So you never really know, what opportunities you'll get. So I have to agree with Tully Blanchard that if you do get the chance to meet such legends, such Hall of Famers, to learn from them, especially if you are a performer or even if you're a fan. I've had the opportunity, Legends Wrestling Q&A here on YouTube, to listen to some of the stories, to talk to some of the guys, to hear some of the experiences, to hear some of the stories that they have told, to read their books, to watch their DVDs. That's one of the reasons why I listen to a lot of the wrestling podcasts, because so many of them, like Terry Funk, or like Mike Tenay coming up on the Ross Report in the next couple of weeks, or J.J. Dillon, or even like Satori Wilson, or Victoria, or whoever, whether it's Jim Ross, Steve Austin, Jim Cornette, Chris Jericho podcasts, whoever it is. That's one of the reasons why I listen to those podcasts, to hear the stories. And I'm only had the chance to attend a couple of the tours, the Roddy Piper and the Wolfpack, but if I could have attended a lot more of them, including the recent Ric Flair one, but it just unfortunately didn't work out that I could. So I have to agree, and I have to disagree with the criticism that Tully Blanchard received. I have to agree with him, because we never know what is going to happen in this life, unfortunately. I've known a couple, kind of known a couple of people that have died over the past, even I would say about 8-9 months or so. A couple of people that I kind of knew have passed away, or that I knew of have passed away locally, and passed away quite young. So you never really know what is going to happen. So I have to completely disagree with the criticism of Tully Blanchard. Yeah, some people say it's a bit galling, and some people may have said it was him trying to perhaps get some attention for the fan fest that he was involved with. I believe actually him and his family, the Blanchard family, were having something to do with it. Obviously, there was the big, I think it was the same big Mid-Atlantic fan fest that had a documentary about the territory that ended up being a kind of tribute night to Dusty Rhodes shortly after Dusty passed away. But certainly, I have to completely agree with Tully Blanchard. You go and meet these legends, you go and learn from these legends when you can, because especially here in Scotland, it's slightly different, and perhaps across Europe and across other areas across the world it may be slightly different, because these kind of legends, these kind of men and women, they may not travel overseas on a regular basis. Maybe very, very, very occasionally that these kind of people come over to UK and Europe and perhaps further beyond, but I would, and so it's more regular for possibly American fans, and I would love to see kind of what happened in London, the London WrestleCon, kind of happened more here in Scotland. I would love to attend something like that. Again, it's just something it's not worked out, that I wouldn't been unfortunately able to do so. But honestly, I would say with all of these, with life in general, with the things that happen in life, the sudden passings. Dusty Rhodes, we never thought he would pass away at just the age of 69, although it turns out seemingly that he'd been ill for quite some time. We never know. The truth is, we never know what is going to happen in life. So I would certainly urge everybody, if you get the chance, go and learn, meet all of these legends, Hall of Famers and wrestling stars if you get the opportunity to do so.